Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Try that.
There you are. We got you.
You look good, Mike. You always look good.
Yeah. I don't know who fixed my hair this morning, but
Looks like somebody with a weed whacker or something.
I think so. Yeah.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do it to it.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. On this week's episode, talking terminology. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about crossfiring and also scalping. Also, Mike has a case study of a horse named Rusty that was having abscess after abscess on both front feet. All this and much, much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. Well, I say I'm doing okay. I always say that I am doing okay, and then something happens here on the property. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened.
Yes.
Why? What happened with you?
Well, I've always gone to a lot of further ed, a lot of educational venues and all that. And I did have something happen this last week that I was not prepared for.
Uh-oh. This does not sound good.
It was different.
What happened?
Well,
All the details, Mike. Spill the tea.
I had a person that was visiting with us. Apparently, she had 7 weeks before her personal delivery date.
Uh-huh.
And apparently, she went into labor pains.
This is a friend of yours or acquaintance?
Well, this is someone I sort of know visiting a client.
Okay.
And I didn't know they were pregnant for starters, so that's okay. But I was scared.
Why? Was she in labor at the...
Well, she started getting painful, and she needed to sit on the ground, so they propped her up against the front wheel of my truck. And I was like, I can't even leave. I can't even leave. And, they did not prepare us for this in past jobs where you had to have first aid.
Really?
No.
Shoeing horses, removing abscess, and delivering babies is not part of the curriculum?
I didn't even have a catcher's mitt with me.
Oh, man.
I wasn't prepared for anything like this.
So did she have the baby there on your wheel? Well,
no, it settled down. I put her in a chair later, but apparently not knowing anything about this and trying to keep from knowing anything about it at this point in life, apparently you can have pre-labor
pains,
contractions.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you said you couldn't tell if she was pregnant or not. So she might have been.
You could tell she was pregnant.
Oh, okay.
I did not know she was pregnant until she appeared the other day.
Okay, so you don't see her all the time.
No.
Okay,
I've been a good while, and
I just want to clarify that she was not like a. I don't know.
She was. You could tell.
Okay.
You could tell. There was no doubt.
All right.
But yeah, I'm going into labor pains. It's like, oh God, I was scared. Not a clinic, not a contest, not a seminar, not a big conference or anything. They ever had anything in there to prepare me for this?
What about basic first aid? Wouldn't that qualify for some kind of?
You would have thought, but during my past careers, because they were high risk, I had a lot of basic first aid every year.
Right.
And never that.
Well, so she's okay. She's doing well.
Oh, she's doing fine. It settled down. It was just early warnings, I guess.
Well, good.
I was wanting to leave. I said, do you want me to call the ambulance? She says, no, I'm fine. I'm like, I'm not.
Mike's white as a ghost.
I'm not. This is not good.
So how long did the ordeal last?
I don't think that it lasted more than maybe it seemed like hours.
I was going to say
more than 5 minutes.
5 minutes felt like 5 hours.
Right. Yes.
And Mike's only concern was, I can't leave. I can't leave.
I need to get out of here.
Get off my truck, lady. I gotta go.
There you go. Time for me to leave. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad she's doing okay.
Yes.
And I'm glad, Mike, you're doing okay as well.
Yeah, it took me a while to get back, blood pressure down and breathing okay. I was hyperventilating.
Well, I was hyperventilating the other day because, as you can see now, we have our member, our Diego, is out in the pasture out here.
Yes, he is.
And the day before, actually 3 days before he came home, I'm getting the property ready and, fixing and mending and doing all that stuff. I go out from the studio here. I go downstairs and I walk out in the garage, grab a drink out of the refrigerator out there. And someone met me right there in my driveway.
Was it Diego?
No, Diego wasn't home yet. It was Dominique. She was standing there right on my driveway. And I'm like going, what are you doing? And she looked at me like,
whatever I want to.
Yeah, like, hey, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. So luckily I've got a pasture fence right there, or gate right there. So I opened it up. She walked in there and closed the gate. Of course, she went trotting around like, look what I did, look what I did. 2 days later, I go out in the same scenario. I'll go downstairs, grab a drink out of the refrigerator, and I just happen to look in the backyard, our backyard, and there's Dominique in the backyard eating clover out of the grass. I'm like, how did you get out? Now, we have a wooden rail fence.
She's got you outsmarted.
And in the front pasture, and then the other 3 pastures have a wire fence, electric wire fence. And I'm looking, and I'm driving around. I get her in the front pasture again. I'm driving around. I'm looking at the fence. None of the lines are down.
Did you grab it to see if it's working?
Well, I didn't even think of that. I did not even think of that. So then the second time she got out, I'm like, oh, well, hold on. Let me go get the little battery tester and put it on the fence and see if it, lights up, showing that it's. I couldn't get nothing, no juice, no nothing. So I said, I bit the bullet. I reached out with my hand. I'm like, all right, here we go. I grabbed it. Nothing. Grabbed the middle rail. Nothing. Do you remember a few months back, I said we had a visitor, our neighbor's horse came across and was running around our pasture? So somehow, some way, it knocked the ground wire off of the down rod that was in the ground.
Well, that will make them not work.
So my wife's panicking because now we got Diego coming home, and, we have to separate all the horses in all the different pastures, but most of our pastures are wire fence. She's freaking out. She's like, I gotta order another box, a power box, because that one's not working. And everyone's spinning in a circle. I go out there, and sure enough, the ground rod is disconnected from the down rod. Put it back on there, and boy, it lit me up. I mean, I didn't think anything.
It was still on, and
this is a solar box,
right?
And I hit it, and you could hear the pop. Mm-hmm. It got me. I said, whoa, fence works. So fence is up and running. I took some of the slack out because as her going through it, she kind of stretched the wires out a little bit. I had to go back and come along to tighten them all back up again. Mm-hmm. So yeah, fence is back on. But yeah, it's amazing. She just stood here on the property, just walking around like nothing was going on. In the past, she's taken off down the hill and run and stuff. So she's good. Mike's good. You didn't have to deliver a baby. I didn't have to go out and get a new horse and a new power box for the fence here. Everyone is whole right now, so I think we're good.
Right.
All right. So we got a lot to talk about. So stick around. You'll see Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine.
I wanted to go see you just walk out there and grab the wire.
That'd light me up. Stick around. You'll listen to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. All right, there. See? Now I got mics.
Yes, you do.
I got mics for mics. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the official farrier of the 2018 World Equestrian Games. And don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video as well. You can see all the shenanigans going on here in the studio. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
You backed up like I surprised you when you saw yourself on the camera there.
It's kind of scary, And
we also have a lot of visuals that we have here in the studio. And the way you see these is to go over to YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. We have a case study about an abscess we're going to get to later in the show. And Mike took a lot of pictures. So if you'd like to see these pictures, go over to YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe to us over there as well. And over to my far end side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Travis. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Now we're going to talking terminology, and you got a lot to talk about here. The first one we're going to talk about in this segment, because there's so much information about it, is the term crossfiring. And the definition of crossfiring is the inside of the hind foot strikes the inside hoof wall of the lower leg of the opposite front limb while in flight. This is associated with a gait called a pace and most often associated with harness horses. And the term is cross-firing. So, Mike, tell us everything there is to know about cross-firing.
Well, the pace, both legs on the same side move together. Like the trot, on the trot is diagonal, and the pace is lateral, right? And a trotting horse, if somebody says they're cross-firing, well, the position of the legs is kind of, well, impossible for them to make that reach because the two legs are moving together, correct?
Correct.
So
as I nod my head like I understand.
Sure. I'll nod my head like I understand too, but we'll do it anyway. And a gaited horse can crossfire. Normally, this is more like you're racing standardbreds because they're moving out, and that's a whole different world than where I work. But you know, if somebody says a horse is crossfiring, this is what an actual crossfiring is. It's the diagonal connection of those two legs. The hind foot comes in. It may be swinging a little narrow towards the inside as they meet and cross each other's path because of the reach, because of the diagonal movement. Think about a choo-choo train. The cylinders on one side, they're moving kind of like
yes,
that kind of deal.
I understand it completely, yes.
The old steam locomotive.
Choo-choo.
Choo-choo. Yes. And, you connect it. Now, as a farrier, working with your hoof balance, some of it's going to be leg alignment and how straight the leg is and how much rotation you have in the leg. But you're going to have, there are things that the farrier can do to help with crossfire, maybe spreading them out just a little bit in the back end.
Now, does this happen as the whole horse gets older, or is this early on in its career, or this could happen at any time?
Well, this could kind of happen at any time, and most of your racing standardbreds are going to be kind of like thoroughbreds, a little bit younger, maybe not quite as young as thoroughbreds, and some of them probably have a longer career. But this is something that would be a gaited horse, or a horse in a pace. A rack, the timing would be different. Your other types of gaits, the timing would be a little different, but it would have to be a lateral mover.
Now, you saw that when you pulled in this morning, you saw Diego's back at home.
Yes, I did.
He's only going to be home for about a month. And
Diego's not going to crossfire.
No, I'm hoping he doesn't. But he's going to another facility here in about 30 days. He's going over to Brett Ingram's place here.
Right.
That's a trainer we had back on season 2. My wife was riding him the other day, and she was kind of holding this back from me. She didn't want me to know anything, because I always
you don't know anything anyway.
Well, what I don't know, if I know something, all I see is dollar signs.
Right.
Just money going right out the door. So she said something that Diego the other day was doing something funny. And I said, funny how? Like funny, like medical funny, or funny like, just being a silly horse? She said that his leg, like every third step or something, he does this whop with his front right leg or something like that. And so she's got the doctors coming out, the vet's coming out today to look at him, make sure he's okay. She was talking in her little horse circle. I'd never heard that horses had what they call growing pains. Do you remember growing up, when you're 10, 12, 11 years old, you get pains in your legs because you're physically growing? Can horses get that pain?
Oh, I thought it was because you ate a piece of pie you weren't supposed to eat, and you ended up getting pains from that.
No.
But that wasn't from growing.
No, but I guess he's going through a growth spurt, and his legs are in pain. So as she's riding him, she does dressage. So as she's riding him, now and then you could see her do to the right, like because he just overextends his leg out because it's giving him pain or something. Have you ever heard of growing pains in horses?
It's possible. I don't see why not.
All right.
And when they do grow, they'll get a little clumsy for a while sometimes.
Well, that's why I was saying, when does this cross firing happen in the early stages?
It's not going to happen with a dressage horse.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not going to happen with a dressage horse because they're walk, trot, canter horses. Although there are some, I think, gaited dressage a little bit at this point. They might do cross-firing, but it's definitely a lateral gait, and your typical dressage horse, unless you're doing one of the gated deals, is not going to be a lateral mover. It's going to be a diagonal mover.
So I don't have to worry about cross-firing. Okay,
not
good.
Cross-firing.
Phew! That's
what you do have to worry about is Well, anything that gets into your checkbook could be.
That's what I was going to say. I can save a couple dollars not knowing that
You're not going to save money. You've got horses.
I know.
You can forget that.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more terminology. We're actually going to talk about scalping. Stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I'm upset about my lights. There's something going on where, see, all these work off Wi-Fi.
Right.
So I can change the colors with the thing, but my printer's not working either. So I don't know what's going on.
They're on strike.
I guess so. Because now you can see all the...
Isn't technology great?
We're our own worst enemies. I always say that. All right, you ready?
Yes,
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He was the 2017 American Eventing Championship Farrier. And don't forget, if you'd like Mike Stine to come out and do a clinic at your location or your event, go to equinedynamics.com. And at the top of the page says clinics. Make sure you click on that. Fill out that little form there. Mike will pencil you in and arrange to schedule a meet and greet or something like that at your location. Just go to equinedynamics.com and for more information. And over to my far end side with all the information is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing?
Well, I'm better now that we got the fence up and running. I'm sure you're better now that you didn't have to deliver a baby and have it called Mike Stine Jr. or something named after you or something.
No. That's not happening. And, I try to stay pretty well prepared for stuff down to massive bleed and everything else.
Right.
But not this.
Now, if the baby would have come out, you would have had to call the baby something of the equine world. So she could have been Equilla. How about if it was a girl, or
I don't know.
Equine if it was a boy?
Okay. Sure. We'll go with that.
Well, we wish happy things to the soon-to-be mom out there. All right, so now we're going to talk about the term scalping. Now, this is not scalping like the Indians
Like
used
a
to.
really close haircut.
Right. Kind of like what you have there. You have a little bit of scalp going on. The definition of a scalping is the toe in the front foot extends rearward. Is that a word? Rearward? Rearward. I don't know.
It says word in it, so it must be a word.
Yeah. And strikes the front surface of the hind foot in flight. This is association with the extended trot, and again, the most common with harnessed horses. Mike says, just talk about I'm reading all the cliff notes. So I'm told to tell you, he just talked in more detail about both of these terms and move on. All right, so Mike, tell us what you know about scalping and how it affects horses.
You know what the difference between a good haircut and a bad haircut is, don't you? About a week.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It'll grow back.
It'll grow back. But, with scalping is another thing you would see more with standardbreds. A horse would have to trot out really big to have a scalping type of interference with most of your riding horses. Although I have had one horse in particular that was a show horse that overtracked by 10 to 12 inches. I mean, he really had a huge trot. And in that kind of case, he could possibly do a scalp type thing at a lower speed.
All right, before we continue, define the term harness horsing. Harness horses.
Harness
for me.
Horses.
Yeah. Not everyone else knows, just for me.
A horse that wears a harness.
Now, a harness. I don't know what a harness is on a horse.
No, me either. No, your harness horses, look up standardbreds.
Okay.
They would typically be a harness horse. And what we're talking about typically happens at speed, where your collected trot or your slower trot, you wouldn't have that much movement, because those at that point both feet are in flight, so the horse is off the ground in the flight phase on both front and hind, and you have to have a good bit of forward momentum to for that to happen at that part of the trot. And that's something that typically that kind of an interference is not going to happen on your dressage horse.
Now, what measures do you take to help prevent or to fix scalping or crossfiring?
Well, cross-firing is something that I don't typically deal with because I don't, typically if I'm working on a gaited horse, it's something that's come through the vet clinic and we're dealing with a specific problem.
Okay.
Like with walking horses, sometimes you see some broke down suspensories, tendon damage, that sort of thing. Typically, if I'm working on a gaited horse, that's where it is.
Okay.
And so that's not something that I normally do. Some extensions, some, playing with the breakover, playing with the alignment of the breakover, and there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. Every individual that does this for a living is going to have their slightly different take on it. But, working with the trim itself, if you've got a trim where you got some diagonal pressure in the trim, and so you're getting more rotation on the ground, you're going to get more of an inward swing.
But you can recognize what's going on. You can hey, your horse is scalping or your horse is crossfiring. I can do this, but you really need to have someone professionally, like a vet or a doctor, come out and look at your horse because this is what's happening.
It's something, that's a movement area. So that's something the trainer and the farrier is going to work with primarily.
Trainer and the farrier?
Trainer and the farrier.
Okay.
Yeah. And the cross-firing deal is, like I say, I've never shoot standardbreds. So I've probably never actually really looked at a cross-firing horse. If it has been so long ago, I don't remember. But early on in my career, I did a little bit of gaited horse work, but not a lot. And just in the trim itself, if you've got a hoof where the hoof is physically twisted and it causes the leg to rotate on the ground, some of it is in the trim, some of it is what we do with what we're putting on, what application we're doing on the foot, and dealing with the timing, playing with the breakover, whatever we need to do there. And the same thing with whether it be scalping, which is something I would be closer to what I would deal with. And some of that's going to have to do with, you can play with breakover timing because you won't need just enough clearance that you're not going to connect there.
Uh-oh.
It doesn't have to be much, just a bit. Now, what are you doing to it?
I saw my phone. I forgot to turn on mute. I'm sorry.
Mine's not on mute.
I know, it's in the truck.
Mine's in the truck.
All right, guys, we'll stick around. When we come back, case study by the horse named Rusty, and we have photos to go with it, and he was getting abscess after abscess. And Mike, these pictures aren't that gruesome. There's still no...
They're not bloody.
No, they're not bloody.
They're not
bloody. Make sure you follow that over at YouTube as well. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Sorry about that.
Yeah. I know.
Hold on, my neighbor's texting me. Oh, okay. So we're going to look at some pictures.
We got pictures.
Yes. You ready?
Right.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He is now a licensed thoroughbred farrier through the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission. And if you have a question for Mike Stine, the way you get those questions into him is go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says contact. Fill out that little form there, and if you have a question for Mike and we read it on the air, we'll send you out some magnets, some stickers. We have some drink coasters, some buttons. We have a whole bunch of stuff for you. Just put a return address, and Mike will send those out to you as well. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I am doing good. How are you, Travis?
I'm doing very well. Now, we have a case study by the name of Rusty. Now, if you want to see these pictures, go over to YouTube. For every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see all the visuals that we have here in the studio. You can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me as well, and his scalped haircut over there, and mine, I need one real bad over here.
We can give you a haircut when we're done here.
Sure, just grab your tools out of the back of your truck and just burn it all off. Now, we have some pictures here of an abscess.
Let's stop the bleeding.
Of an abscess, a horse that was getting abscess after abscess. Now, first of all, describe what an abscess is on a horse. And where do you want to start?
Where do you want at the beginning?
All right, so an abscess on a horse's foot. And let me switch screens here and make sure we can all see it and we can all be friends. So there you go. What are we looking at here, Mike?
We have to be friends.
We can be friends.
We can be friends. Okay, this foot.
This looks like it's a big split right in the middle of it, like someone took a big chunk out of the front of the foot.
Right. Now, I did take a big chunk out of the center of the foot. This horse had been blowing abscesses right up the center of the toe. Ended up on both feet, primarily on one. But at a point, there had been about 7 abscess tracks.
Now, how does a horse get an abscess? Let's start there. How do you prevent it, and how do they get it?
Internal damage, tearing of the laminae, trauma, bruising, a puncture.
So all these different factors lead into an abscess.
A lot of different factors can lead into an abscess. Now, if you're looking at this foot where we have cleaned out the track because we had repeated track on top of track on top of track, and it kept coming back, so we opted to clean this out and, try to get rid of any kind of pressure. If you notice that the coronary band right in the center above the track, it is pushed up. There is a little condition called coronitis, which is basically inflammation of the coronary band, correct?
Correct.
If you go straight above the crack, you can see that is shoved up at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, so we can go to the next one. So we're cleaning that out. We're getting rid of all the dead, damaged tissue, and we're growing it down. And
Mike, looks like you hooked your thumb right here.
that, you got to make sure your blood's moving every now and then.
Right.
And probably at some point did. But I've got side clips, and then I've pulled a couple of clips right on either side of the crack. They're not the prettiest clips, but they're sturdy enough to stabilize the foot, right?
Right.
And then we've opened that up, and we can continue to clean it with iodine or whatever. So we opted, instead of doing kind of lacing or anything, I'm using the shoe to stabilize the foot because we've taken a pretty good chunk out of there.
So if you take that shoe off, is the hoof going to split wider on you or flay out a little bit?
Well, that's the reason that we did that, so that it would not be possible for it to do it, because this horse had been barefoot. I don't know how much that had to do or not with the continuing abscess, but we did have some trauma right there at the toe and the sole where it kept blowing out. Now, the question is, where did it start? Did it start at the top or at the bottom? And we clean all that out. At this point, because of the coronitis, would thin down the hoof wall. If you go above the crack, right in there, all that had been thinned down to where we had some flex in the coronary band, because even after we started, we ended up coming back and blowing another abscess. So we opted to thin that down so the coronary band could have a little give room there.
This looks like a cow's foot. The way
yeah. I don't think they'd have made them mistakes. But to relieve some of the pressure on the coronary band, that top area was thinned way down, and then we allowed it to, after that point, this seemed to pretty well settle down. But you can see up above the crack where you'd had some pinch and pressure, and when that was at the coronary band. Okay, move forward.
Yeah.
Okay, at that point, the foot's growing down. We're keeping it stabilized, and
this is the other front foot. The first one was the bigger gash. This is a smaller gash in this one.
I'm not 100% sure you want to know the honest truth, but as it grows down, we're losing that, and I think that is the foot that was worse because of what we had done with tools above it, and allowed it to grow down. In fact, you can see where that dip has grown down, where we thin down the hoof wall, that is just above the area of the split, right in there, and we'd kind of leveled it out with the hoof as we put the shoe back on.
Now, what's this red coloring here? Is that?
Well, that was probably done around the coronitis when it was up at the coronary band. And if you look, that around the coronary band, that bulge has settled down some. And as we grow that out, we removed the shoes, and we went back to getting this guy happy barefoot and doing his thing.
Now here you are, you're putting mustard on the horse's foot. You're getting ready to eat it.
Yeah, that is an iodine mix.
Okay.
That we're treating the area with, just to make sure we don't get any kind of infection in there. So, and there's some of the big gaping holes that we had at that point. And
is this the finished product? The horse, you cleaned it all up, and you're not going to do any fillings?
Well,
you're not going to do any?
No, we did not do any fillings in there because we kept recurring abscess. We want to make sure it was done. If you look at the one with the worst side, you've got that pushed up place in the coronary band at that point. And there's where you got your coronitis. Later on, when you go back to the one where all that has grown down, that has some of that has settled down. At that point, the one foot looks pretty good. The other foot, we still got some, we've taken that out, and we're allowing the coronary band to settle down, and we're growing the foot down.
So the horse will only wear the shoes as long as this is exposed, and once that all grows down and fills in, you'll take the shoes off or readjust from there.
Right. This horse had been barefoot, and our goal was to get him back barefoot. We just had to stabilize the situation with the feet. And so he ended up going back to being a barefoot horse and back to trail riding and whatever he did for a living, mostly eating treats.
That's what I was going to say. What was his job?
But, every time we went back in, we'd clean up, investigate any dead areas, investigate any areas that were opened up and undermined, and clean them out to get the pressure off the coronary band, allow chick days, and allow it to grow down. And then we're using what we put on the foot to stabilize the foot so that does not want to open up, and treating we had a vet working with us, so we're treating for any kind of infection. Right there, everything has been cleaned out pretty big. So, and then it's allowed to grow down. At that, we're in there painting it with iodine. At that point, you can see where it's growing down, and we still have been resetting that shoe because just to stabilize the foot. And when we get that down, you go back to your turpentine or whatever to make sure you're hardening up the soles, pull the shoes off, and let him go back to his business.
So what's the update on this horse?
Last time I saw him, he was back doing his long trail rides, and he was happy enough, and we didn't have any more problem with it. But we just got into that cycle where it was abscess, 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 abscess. Now, then the question is, was there a touch of laminitis? Which was not diagnosed at that time. And when I came into it, we had the big tracks that we're dealing with, and decided, well, maybe something's in there. Like you could have you could have something like a keratoma up the track, which we've found that type of situation before, which we did not find here. And why does it keep reabscessing? Because to blow an abscess, you've got dead material in there, and the body is doing its job to get rid of it.
Ugh.
Okay, so why do we keep continuing to reabscess? Have we chipped part of the coffin bone? Have we, is there something growing in there that's not supposed to be in there? What's the deal? So we take care of that, and then we're stabilizing the foot and bringing it down and letting it grow to the ground and getting the shoes off and letting him go back to what he does best.
All right, guys, stick around. One more little segment, and we'll let you get back to enjoying your horses. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. I want to fix something real quick. There. I had to move the camera.
Right.
Get you a little bit more centered.
I'm not very centered.
Okay.
You know this.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sounder horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF 1 accreditation. All right, and don't forget, for every podcast we do, we have a matching video. You can see me waving to Mike, Mike waving to me. All the visuals that happen here in the studios, you can see that as well. Any kind of pictures, articles that we talk about, you can see it over on YouTube as well. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. If you have a question for Mike Stine, the way you get those in is to go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page, fill out the context section and put a return address. If Mike reads it here on the air, we'll send you out a magnet, some stickers and stuff. And don't forget, the best questions of season 5 will get a free Mike Stine Equine Dynamics t-shirt. So make sure you get those in, and we'll release those at the end of season 5.
Right.
You still have them all, right?
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
No, actually not.
Make sure you didn't cut them up and make shop rags out of them. And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine. How are you?
Save me from having to buy shop rags.
It's Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm good. All
right, so Mike, what did we learn today? Talking terminology. Lots of information there. The first one word we were discussing was cross-firing.
We learned what cross-firing is, and that's something that a horse that is pacing at speed where you would have that kind of interference.
The other term we were talking about is scalping.
Yes, and we're not talking about a haircut. There again, probably a harness horse trotting at speed and the type of interference you can get at moving out. Most horses at their trot are probably not moving forward with enough forward inertia to have this happen.
And the case study of Rusty and having abscess after abscess on its feet and how Mike addressed that. And I'll switch cameras here again.
Yeah, sometimes we have to go in there and clean out and see what's in there and give it a chance to grow down. And, you know, this guy went back to doing what he does and enjoying life and making his owner happy.
And we still don't know what caused the abscess.
I don't know that we ever came up with a real reason. His, you know, the one foot that had blown abscesses a number of times had gotten a little deformed and a little stretched forward. So in that, we're taking care of that problem. And then we also had the coronitis. And did it start off as an abscess that created coronitis, and was the coronitis creating the abscesses? I don't know that we can give you an answer on that one.
But he's healing up and he's doing well now.
He is doing well. He's doing good. He's enjoying life.
All right, guys. On that note, make sure you follow Mike Stine over on Facebook. Mike, you always post a bunch of interesting articles, and I read every single one of them. And the way you find him over at Facebook is Equine Dynamics Mike Stine. Make sure you like and subscribe to him over there as well. If you have any questions for Mike Stine, or if you're like Mike Stine and perform a clinic out at your location, go to equinedynamics.com. At the top of the page says clinics. Fill that out. Mike will get in touch with you and set up a date for you as well. Well, there goes that. There goes that monitor.
You fixed that one there, by golly.
All right, guys. On that note, on behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week. There we go. All right, we're clear. Falling apart, Mike. Falling apart.
Did we survive it?
Yes. I got to get that monitor out of here. I don't like that monitor. It looks like someone smoked the center of it. Oh, you ever seen like rooms where people just smoke all the time?
Good night, Ned. Hi, Dusty.
Good night, Ned.
It's got like that motel TV look to it.
Yeah.